Hello everyone, I'm Łukasz Malinowski, the Internet of Things advisor and trainer. Today, I would like to discuss with you why telemetry is the essence of any IoT solution. Before we start, please just type hi into chat so I know I'm not speaking to myself. And once you do that, I will start the 15 minutes timer. And in case of any questions, please ask your questions during this 15-minute period, because let's try to keep it as the hard stop. So after the first comment that anyone listens, we're going to start, and I will explain you why telemetry is the essence. Hello, okay, so in that case, we are ready to go. So telemetry it feels like natural, right, for anyone working with IoT. But to be honest, I forgot about its true meaning, and let me explain you how it looks. But before we go there, I just want to give you the high-level overview of IoT system. Like, we've got devices, and those devices are equipped with sensors. Sensors read data from the physical world for the surroundings and transform those readings into digital form. So basically, they are creating a connection between the physical and digital worlds, right? But devices on themselves, they cannot do much with data they gathered. That's why they send data to some kind of backend system. It might be the edge gateway, it might be other backend. And the simple act of sending data from devices to some kind of backend is called the telemetry. Telemetry, from Greek, that means the remote measurement. Tele means remote, metron means measurement. And for me, to be honest, that was something that made me realize once again, after those years spent in IoT, that this is the core essence of what IoT is all about, right? This capability to measure some values remotely, right? Those might be values regarding the environment, regarding some kind of equipment, and sending those values over to some distant gateways, distant backend systems. It is all that is to the IoT itself. And based on that simple fact, we can build some more advanced use cases. For instance, the command flow, right? So we've got the data flow, and let's say this temperature sensor detects value that is outside of the operational range of some device. It sends this value to the edge gateway or to the backend system, and whether we should use edge gateway or not, this is very use case specific, right? So I will not cover that today. We will talk about it during our next meeting. But what is important is that the telemetry readings from that temperature sensor arrive to the backend system, and on the backend we can do some form of processing, right? So if we decide that those readings are outside of a given spectrum, we might invoke some remote actions. So in this case, we might turn on this fan device in order to cool down the environment that is around this temperature sensor. So on this very simple diagram, you can see that the command flow clearly depends on the data flow. And data flow, this is the telemetry, the remote measurement. So let's take a look at a bit more real-life example. And I want to show you this engine, right? So typically engines are quite complex devices, right? There are lots of things going on with them, and we want to measure lots of different attributes of engines. So for instance, to this specific equipment, we can attach like humidity sensor, temperature sensor, vibration sensor, all of those sensors that we need to take remote measurements against that piece of hardware. And as I said at the very beginning, those sensors cannot do much on their own, like they do not provide any business value. What they are responsible of doing is sending all of that gathered data to the backend system. And this is something that is extremely important to realize where we work with the IoT environment instead of the IoT system. We should think from the ecosystem perspective. So those publishers, those sensors are unaware of subscribers. In other words, they don't really care who is on the other end. They don't really care who is reading that data, how that entity works with the data. The sole purpose of those devices is to make those remote measurements and send them across to the backend. And on the other side, we've got all of those consumers, right, that receive messages from sensors and act on them. Let's call them the applications, but that might be also some other kind of device. And just looking at this picture, it might seem that it is just a chaos, right? We've got arrows pointing into two directions. And that is actually true, because once again, if you think about the Internet of Things ecosystem, basically you've got many to many type of communication. Like, you are not interested into establishing multiple one-to-one connections. What you want to achieve is to have that many to many type of situation where the ecosystem actually lives and provides greater value than any single device on its own. And let's say that we want to add additional application to that system, right? Like, and introduce it here. So if we decide to embed the information about the subscribers on all of those devices, those sensors, in that case, we would have to update our whole system to add that new application that we just introduced, right? And that would create like tons of complexity. Like, it would be extremely hard to manage this type of system, and this is not really something that we actually want to do, right? That's why that assumption that publisher is not aware of the subscribers is so important, and that yet another assumption that we've got many-to-many communication is also extremely important, because you want to have that capability to extend your system, to add applications, add devices without impacting any existing applications and devices that you've got in your own network. And let's take a look at how we can actually manage this chaos, because for now it doesn't make any sense. And we can do that using the properly defined MQTT topic structure. And MQTT is one of the most popular protocols in the Internet of Things domain. And using it, we can really implement those two assumptions: that publisher is unaware of the subscribers, and we work with many-to-many communication. Just a note from my side, we are building this very flexible system, but that is not an excuse that we should compromise on the security. Like, what we should do is we should provide that many-to-many communication framework with very solid security mechanisms in place. And if we check the MQTT documentation, it does not really provide any guidance on that. Like, the MQTT topic is just a string, and we separate that string into the multiple levels using slashes, but we can do it in whatever form we wish, right? So in order to manage this chaos and to organize that many-to-many communication, to organize that separation between the publishers and subscribers, we need to really think about how we want to structure that. And right now, we're going to go through this proposed structure, like level by level. But what I would like you to focus on is how closely this structure is actually connected with the telemetry, that remote measurement. Like that's something that is so obvious to most of us. Well, it was very obvious to myself that I actually forgot about the true meaning of telemetry. So let's decompose this topic together. First, we've got the purpose, right? So as we saw in the first example, there are two main purposes of the communication. We've got the data flow, the telemetry flow, and we've got the command flow that acts and consumes the telemetry data. So this is the first and the top level field we use in the topic. Why is that? Because this gives us really strong security foundations. If we distinguish if the topic is used for the telemetry data or for data in general or for the commands, that gives us a great control because we can limit, for instance, our sensors should be able only to send telemetry data. We probably do not want them to send any commands to the backend systems or other applications. And let's say that one of our devices got compromised. In that case, the attacker can only do what that device is allowed to do. So in this case, this device can send only data. It cannot take over any other devices or applications by sending commands. So let's move forward. And then we've got the business entity. This might be a tricky one to understand at the very beginning, but actually it makes sense. So the sole purpose of the business entity or business owner so high in the MQTT topic structure is the further separation of access to data, right? Because probably at your company, you've got multiple business units, and you do not want to expose data from every single device to every single business unit, right? You need to clearly define the owners of data and of corresponding devices, and here we can represent it as a business entity at the very top of our MQTT topic. And the further gain from that is, let's say that you will create some acquisition. You will create some merge with telemetry vendor. You can then add that telemetry vendor at this level and still use the same hierarchy. Going forward, we've got the metadata, so the data describing our data. And this is extremely important because here you can see that we are describing the data that we're working with, and we are slowly start to make sense out of this chaos. So we describe data always from the generic to specific. So in that case, we've got some type of a plane. Then we've got ID of very specific plane. We've got a section within that plane of this type. And going forward, we've got the asset that we are monitoring. So this is this device, right? This engine with all of those sensors attached. But just looking at this telemetry topic, you can extract multiple information on their own. And finally, we add the monitored feature. So in this case, temperature, it might be some vibration readings and other things that we want to monitor, right? So once again, the telemetry, the remote measurement is absolutely the core foundation of IoT system. Because if you think about any other use case, any other functionality that you want to provide, like the machine learning at the edge, some kind of remote actions that you want to invoke to prevent some accidents or whatnot, all of those depend on the solid telemetry framework. The remote measurement is the crucial, and all of those fancy cutting edge use cases require telemetry to work. That's why you should focus on providing that telemetry in a way that is easy to consume by all of those subscribers, all applications, and other devices. And I do believe that this type of topic structure really gives you that possibility. So publishers don't really need to worry about the subscribers, because subscriber, when subscribes to this type of topic, already knows what type of data it expects. So that is very high-level introduction into the telemetry and how I look at it, how I think about it when I design IoT systems. We've got 1 minute left, so if you've got any questions, that is the last chance for you to ask. If not, then I will just thank you for your attention. It's great that you decided to join me today. I will schedule next meeting also narrowed to the 15 minutes, probably to talk about the edge gateways, because the role of edge gateway varies from use case to use case, and I want to give you some examples from my own experience. If you're interested in other topics, just reach out to me, and I will do my best to include them in the future streams. So that's all from my side. I'm Łukasz Malinowski, the Internet of Things advisor and trainer, and I thank you for your attention. So take care, and till next time.